I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon.
As the 2020-2021 season is officially over, I thought it would be good to take a look back at some of the most interesting hunts of the year. It would be impossible to tell every story, capture every moment, or include every detail in any single video. So today, as we look back at some of the most significant successes and failures of the last season, we'll also explore some of the aspects of these hunts that didn't make the final cut. Fittingly, we start off with the very first hunt of the 2020 archery season, a hunt in which I was able to fill my first doe tag of the year. When I watched through this footage, one of the first things I noticed is my own struggle to keep the camera on the deer and grab my bow to position for a shot. I find that it really only takes one close encounter, whether it be with turkeys or deer, to reactivate that portion of my brain that's dedicated to self-filming. In this case, this doe was that first encounter, and it probably cost me an earlier shot by not being ready. Fortunately, of course, a shot would later present itself, and luckily by now, I was in full self-filming mode, and was able to capture my cleanest footage of a deer harvest, at least to that point. The part of the story that really gets left out here is the amount of time spent quite literally crawling through the field, searching for the next drop of blood. I set my camera down in the grass to be able to do this, and what isn't caught on film is the 75 yards or more of tracking my dad actually saved us by searching out ahead of the last blood. If there's one area I really wish to improve on in this year, it's keeping the cameras rolling during the tracking process. I think there's a lot to be gained by doing so. This hunt continues to haunt me for several reasons. Just a few days after my first doe harvest, I returned to the same stand with the same goal in mind. Those of you that have seen the hunt already may recall the final result, a technically legal antlerless deer, which sadly did actually have small antlers. For one, my failure to catch that at such a close range, even in fading light, bothers me to this day. I erred on the side of caution this spring while turkey hunting on multiple occasions, and this particular deer had a lot to do with that. Along with that, something that was just about glossed over in the final cut was the opportunity I had to take a doe earlier in the hunt. I got to full draw, she was in nearly the exact same place as the previous doe, but I wasn't 100% certain she was still on camera, but it turned out she absolutely was. Just because that led to the rest of the hunt playing out as it did, I still think back on that moment often, wishing I had just zoomed the camera out a bit more before drawing back. Then I would have been confident the doe was still in frame. I think that is actually something that gets lost in these videos though. Harvesting a deer is a challenge in and of itself. Add trying to get it on film in there, and the odds are really against you. On plenty of occasions, I prioritized the shot of getting a deer on film over the shot with a gun or bow. I'm not simply trying to document the harvesting of a deer or a turkey or whatever future game I may chase while self-filming. I'm trying to document my experiences throughout the entire hunt, and on a larger scale, throughout the entire season. Dropping the camera in order to take the shot, or in this particular case, potentially allowing the deer to step out of frame before the shot, goes against everything I'm working to do with these videos. Things such as the second angle camera or scope camera ensure that when things happen fast, there's still something to be salvaged from the hunt. If at all possible though, I favor getting the footage and kind of figuring out from there as far as managing a shot, and of course capturing that on film. I actually think this hunt shows that fairly well. As this mature doe was making her way into range, I continued filming her as she got close, and only when she stopped, already well within 30 yards, I readied my bow and luckily was able to come to full draw and shoot. Once again, those of you that have seen this hunt already know how it played out. The doe jumped the string, and the arrow ended up hitting her straight through the liver, leading to a next day recovery. I don't think I can overstate how awful that terrain was. Where we found her was fairly open, but the process of getting her out of there was a tedious one to say the least. Once again, more filming of these moments is a priority for me this coming season, but hundreds of yards of dragging through an area barely wide enough to fit through, on top of the briars and thorns present on just about everything, made this recovery a memorable one for sure. Now onto the bucks. Firstly, I had all but forgotten about this young 10-point that showed up on multiple early season hunts. He seemed to have disappeared by mid-October. I just hope he's still around and that I'll get a chance to see him this season. The number of velvet bucks I saw this spring while turkey hunting at least has me optimistic. Then, of course, this encounter. I may never truly forget it. What I would consider a Pennsylvania trophy whitetail walked within 5 yards of my stand, and I was never able to come to full draw as I had just arrived at my stand and was still pulling my bow into the tree. I think what bothers me the most about it was I can't really know if being there earlier would have made the difference. This particular hunt occurred in the early afternoon. My dad, brother, and I had actually just finished watching trail camera pictures and having lunch, and this buck that we named the Bladed 9 was in a number of those pictures. I genuinely said, I'm gonna go kill that buck. Admittedly as a joke, but I wasn't too far off getting a real chance. I often wonder if I had walked faster or left sooner, if the result would have been different. It would make sense, if not for the fact that the buck had a few aggressive behaviors that lead me to believe that he may have heard my footsteps, thought I was another buck, and was on his way to challenge that buck. It would explain why he walked right to the base of my tree, but I'll never know for sure, and that part really has me hoping I get the chance to settle the score, so I can finally put that one to bed. This buck actually continued his pattern of showing up immediately after being mentioned the following day. Not 2 minutes after receiving a text from my brother about the buck, he was back again, but with a doe. I was well aware that calling a buck off a doe was near impossible, but I tried it anyway with the expected results. The day before, there was no doe in sight, and on this day, the last time I would see him, unfortunately, that doe never came within bow range, and so neither did the buck. I want to go back for just a moment to the second deer harvest of 2020 and how that's affected my judgment. On this hunt, the second to last chance to fill a turkey tag in the spring season, just a few weeks ago, I had a number of legal birds hanging around at 50 yards. The problem was I also had a lot of illegal birds doing the same thing. The tag is for a bearded bird, and almost none of the jakes had very clearly visible beards. More than half a dozen birds were moving around, it was foggy, and there was plenty of brush. Even if I decided I would take a 50-yard shot, anytime I could pick out a jake, make certain it had a beard, and position myself for a shot, each time, without fail, a tree or some brush would obscure it for a second, and the whole process had to start over, just in case it was one of the hens that appeared on the other side, and not the jake I was nearly certain it should be. I hope to keep that standard of judgment going forward. There are, of course, so many other stories and details from any one season that enough books could be written to fill a library, but these are the ones that I found to be the most interesting and to go along with the most exciting hunts. It's always great to look back on these hunts. It's one of my favorite aspects of self-filming. Watching the footage back can just about transport you back there to experience it all over again, and I'm as excited as ever for this fall and getting to do it again. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.